Last spring they built a power plant down by my granny's farm, and they said although it's nuclear it will not do no harm. But lately I've been noticing that something may be wrong.
Welcome to episode 1 of Project Iowa. Today we will be taking a look at the Basilica of St. Francis Xavier in Dyersville, Iowa. The Basilica of St. Francis Xavier in Dyersville, Iowa was said to have been planned by the first pastor of the parish there, the Reverend Anton Kortenkamp. And we are told Here and Sons, architects from Dubuque, were hired to furnish plans and specifications for the building. And we are told construction began in 1888. The foundation was complete by June, and on June 3rd, 1888, Bishop Hennessy blessed the cornerstone. And by December 3rd, 1889, we are told the ceremony of the dedication of the completed new church took place, with upwards of 6,000 people in attendance. And as you can see, it truly is a lovely building, just magnificent. A work of art in and of itself, really. So much ornamentation and symbolism. It is just a wonder to behold inside and out. And the Basilica of St. Francis Xavier, built between 1888 and 1889, apparently only has 2 construction photos brought down to us through the historical narrative. You can see here, 1889, just about finished with the building, and yet, despite having just dug the basement only a year before, we have trees growing all around the base. And if we zoom in, we can see some very interesting scaffolding, with what appears to be about 6 men strewn about, very small-looking men, if you ask me. And again, the scaffolding, very suspicious, pieces not connecting to each other, just not the type of thing you'd think 6 men would crawl around 200 feet up in the air. And we look over, zoom out a little, and we see the spire next to them, with very elaborate scaffolding, almost too much. Looks like it would have gotten in the way and been a real problem to disassemble, which I also think they would have done while they were coming down. I don't think a company that could throw together a building this fast would have added another step to their process. I think they would have taken down that scaffolding as they were coming down. And here's a modern-day picture of 2 men working on the copper cross. Give you a sense of scale, how small these men look. And in recent years, these crosses were taken down and restored. And you can see here it's a very large copper cross. And according to the official history, there is only one other picture taken during construction. I'll read the caption here. This rare picture taken in early 1888 during the building of the church. It is the only picture ever found of any of the workers who actually did the building. No records have been found of their names. This group seems to be stonemasons holding the tools of their trade. The man with the X mark is Henry Bergen Sr. Seated on the wheelbarrow is John Clocker, and sitting behind him is one Herman C. Gherkin. They probably called him Big Herm. And this photo here, we are told, was taken in early 1888, just shortly after they had dug the foundation for this basilica. And yet in the background it seems like there's quite a bit done for it still to be early 1888. Also very strange how clean these men are for this group of 10, 15 people to have done this building, constructed this building with just those tools in their hands. A lot of rubble on the ground that doesn't make sense. We see very simple tools in there. That man seems to have a stick in his hand. We see this ladder in the background. It's kind of flimsy for grown men to be going up and down and carrying brick up and down all day. And it looks like there's a donkey or horse hiding in the background there. And the fact that they say they never got the names of the men who built it, but then they mixed in 3 other names in the caption there is also strange. These men would have spent 2 years in Dyersville. You would think that all kinds of interactions would have happened and their name would have been written down somewhere. And here in the black and white, we can see this man has an interesting white haze around his hat. And these men as well, making one wonder if this group of men was actually superimposed onto this image at a later date. And back to the scaffolding here. One thing I'm noticing in many of the construction photos from this time period, if there are any, is this extensive scaffolding. We don't really see the building being constructed. We see finished buildings with scaffolding around the top, and often the scaffolding is too much. It looks like it would be in the way. Or like this, it's flimsy and just nonsensical and not connected even. So with so many of these buildings, we have no construction photos, yet we have nonsensical scaffolding. It is an anomaly that is so reoccurring that it's hard for someone to think it's anything other than systematic. And here's another early picture I found. I'm not sure of the date on this, but we zoom in and we can see what looks like scaffolding all around the top. However, something tells me that might not be scaffolding. It could be something else that was originally on the building. It's hard to think that the builder would leave that up for any time period. As I said before, it would make sense that they would take it down as they're coming down. And as above, so below, all through the church we see these spires, these symbols, this ornamentation depicting what the early steeple looked like. And here we have a 200-foot tall tale from 1908 where some storm damage caused them to put up more interesting scaffolding. And in this one of the men decided to do a handstand on top of the scaffolding. As you can see, those are presumably the 2 men up there replacing the cross, or maybe they were taking stuff down, I don't know. It's hard to tell how much of this narrative is embellished or maybe even fictional. So much of the documentation just doesn't match the building for such an elaborate structure like this that would take truly master craftsmanship, and then to have so little documentation, it just doesn't make much sense. You can say that there wasn't many cameras at the time and so on and so forth, but I don't think that doesn't cut it. There was, as the narrative says, there was cameras in the beginning and cameras in the end. They just never pushed the button or pointed the camera when the action was happening, if that's the jump you need to make to have this narrative make sense. In fact, a company who could create such a structure in so little time would likely be drawing the process and bring cameras of their own to take pictures of their process. Just as well, there would have been newspapers from all over Iowa who would have had cameras and who would have came, and even artists of the time period who would have had plenty of time to come and just sit and draw what they saw, and yet no newspapers took pictures, No individual citizens took a paper. No artists drew the process. All we have are 2 construction photos that are full of anomalies.
Last spring they built a power plant down by my granny's farm, and they said although it's nuclear it will not do no harm. But lately I've been noticing that something may be wrong. There's carrots in the garden that are almost 5 feet long. We've had to pick the corn 3 times, but that's not bad at all, 'cause poor granny's pushing 80 and she's almost 10 feet tall. We've lost a lot of chickens, they're the only thing that's small, but the eggs they've been a-laying are the size of basketballs. The glow inside the barn keeps getting brighter every day. When we go outside at night we use a pig to light the way. We've had to pick the corn 3 times, but that's not bad at all, 'cause poor granny's pushing 80 and she's almost 10 feet tall. Said she thinks she'll have to sell this crazy farm. At the power plant they're saying that we should not be alarmed. They finally plugged the leak, and in a 500,000 years we'll all be back to normal when the radiation clears. We've had to pick the corn 3 times, but that's not bad at all, 'cause poor granny's pushing 80 and she's almost 10 feet tall. Oh, poor granny sure had a time of it, hasn't she? She should have seen what it did to my sister. I'm not even gonna tell her what it did to me. Why, you know, my dog went and sprouted wings, and now he flies around dive bombing rabbits. Horse went and grew a 5th leg.